Some members of our group posted the 2023 ICAC performance metrics and standards. And this particular publication, ICAC Performance Standards, is very, very interesting because since about 2000, well, post 2012, because they do their updates every couple of years, so probably 2014. The ICAC standards used to have very specific language saying that officers had to be aware of the state and local laws regarding entrapment. So that why? Because police very often create the reality of entrapment for their so-called marks, their victims, we might call them, and they also had very specific languages about not violating the Fourth Amendment. And even worse than that, they had a very specific language saying that officers needed to stay off of social media accounts that are dating apps and related accounts. Well, that certainly changed after 2012 with under pressure, I would argue, from Congress wanting to see more results coming from their 2008 Protect Act, where they wanted to show results against real child exploitation, which they had been told by the echo chamber was running rampant around the world. And again, we don't know. I think the nature to which it is as bad as it is because, in part, police have obscured the statistics and they've been rather dishonest about their approach and their investigative methods. Warp to 2023 and their latest standards, it's very interesting. They say about social media that under 8.9.1 and 8.9.2, they say, well, we are going to be on social media accounts, and police are allowed to make persona on those accounts, and they are allowed to send messages, and they're allowed to post pictures. They don't go into very many details beyond that. In Section 9, they say that they're allowed to talk to the public, that they're allowed to discuss in general terms what they're doing, and to provide educational materials on social media accounts. But they are not, they're mum completely about their earlier prohibitions about making sure that they understand exactly what is required and why it's so dangerous to be on social media dating accounts and related things, because of course people are in a very vulnerable state on there. You're dealing with people trying to date, you're dealing with, yes, people trying to hook up in adult patterns, which are completely lawful, and they should not be on those sites, as we have said repeatedly. Gaming sites as well is a big area that police find themselves. They were previously on, I mean, they're everywhere. You name the site, police are there. And what's really, really interesting about this to me personally is that they are required, police are required to be informed as to the entrapment laws and the local laws, as well as the electronic surveillance laws. And when Detective Robert M. Bauer, in my case, and in many other cases, we find this in the transcripts, when police are asked, do you know about these cases? I'm sorry, do you know about these regulations and laws? They repeatedly say, no, I don't know very much about them. They are required to know about them. There's also, as is there in all these standards, at every single section, in section 9 and section 8, I believe it is one or the other, it says that they may defer to prosecution, prosecutors, people in the prosecution department for guidance on this. Translation, if there's a way around this, is there a way to do our investigation where we can do whatever we want, but we can get away with it legally? That's what we want to do. So what's really curious about these new 2023 standards is they're much more vague than the earlier standards. They allow the police many more outs, and they allow blatant violations of state and local laws as well as federal law. For example, you're not supposed to impersonate anyone, even according to the terms of service of each of these groups. You're not allowed to impersonate anyone. They do. Many states have anti-impersonation laws on the books where you can't pretend to be somebody else. You can't use what's called synthetic media sometimes, and yet they do it anyway. And their argument is we have a legitimate law enforcement purpose, but in fact they don't. So if you look at the model CCOPS laws, that is laws that have been promulgated and pushed by the DC, I think it's the ACLU in DC a few years ago. One of the things that they said would prevent this type of thing, they didn't specifically say this thing, but this type of thing of police abuse, whether it be physically, digitally, it doesn't matter, is to make the police develop a plan and come to the local authorities, the city council, the county commission, whatever, and say, this is our plan of how we're going to combat child exploitation. These are the type of things that we want to do. These are the type of things that we wish to accomplish, and then allow it to go before the public and have the public, sound off on this. What questions do you have? What concerns do you have? But they don't want to do that because they don't want their wings clipped. They don't want to be restrained. Much better to ask for permission or plead ignorance later on after the fact. So this is the 2023 ICAC performance standards and how they have morphed a little bit from their origins early on, and how we are all much less safe as a result of those. Thank you for those who have brought this forth and brought it to our attention. Keep fighting out there because we will eventually prevail as police are exposed more and more to the dishonest tactics that they are known for. This is ICAC Unpacked. Have a nice day.